Who is to blame for the Tshwane plumbing fiasco? The DA-led council says it's the ANC, but admits that it is paying for nothing.
Tshwane Utilities MMC Daryl Moss says the project's budget had been allocated by the previous ANC-led council. Now the DA-led council was paying water trainees for doing nothing. How does the city justify this?
We can't. I mean, the program is a disaster.
He admitted that in an attempt to save the project, water manager Johan Panzergro had agreed to provide transport and tools to service provider Makato Business Enterprise, but hadn't.
I know Mr. Panzergro, and he's a very competent director in our water demand management. And he has absolutely no authority, and he knows that, to commit the regions.
Now Moss says the city has a new service provider and expects the water program to resume this month. The trainees are fed up and want full-time jobs as they were once promised. Not a chance, says Moss.
There was never an undertaking to absorb these people into the city's employment. They were given skills creation.
He says they were left to deal with the ANC Council's election promises.
We went through huge amounts of problems with not only with the students, but with, for instance, the people that were servicing our sewers and the people who were reading our meters, because they all had expectations and, according to all of them, had been promised employment in the city. And yet it was impossible for us to employ those people. We didn't have funded vacancies, and even if we did to employ, we were talking at one stage of about 4,000 people. To employ those would have just bankrupted the city.
The Tshwane War on Leaks project was introduced a month before the 2014 elections. Trainees were taken from another project called Tsepo 10,000.
Projects that were clearly targeted at the elections of the local government elections, that were never properly funded, but that were showpieces where projects started and never had the funding to finish them.
The Tsepo 10,000 project, from which the trainee plumbers were drawn, was exposed on Checkpoint last year as a money-making racket.
We found that many of the Tsepo 10,000 entrepreneurs were doing nothing more than going to Pick n Pay, buying copying paper, marking it up by 500% and selling it on to the city. Now, that wasn't the idea of Tsepo 10,000. The idea was to encourage proper business skills. What we found that many of these projects were made available for a connected group of people. We are going to introduce a database to the city where all people who qualify for these programs can register on that database. People will be taken at random off that database. So it won't be the same people, the connected few, that just keep getting the jobs over and over again.
We called former Tshwane Mayor Kgosietso Ramokgopa, under whose administration the War on Leaks project was implemented, to find out how exactly the 5 million rand set aside for the first phase of the project was used. The person who answered his phone said Ramokgopa would need permission from ANC Communications boss Tebogo Jwala to speak to us.
Let me propose one thing, that the ANC would decide whether they allow him to speak.
Okay.
He's chairperson of the ANC in Tshwane.
Yes.
Because he's now only the ANC and not in government. So Tebogo will decide whether the ANC wants to speak on his behalf or he can speak for himself.
Tebogo Jwala called back and said that Ramokgopa was the man to speak to, but the former mayor's phone was switched off when we tried it and our broadcast deadline expired. This isn't the first time Checkpoint has been unable to get answers from Ramokgopa. Last year, after agreeing to an interview about Tsepo 10,000 project, he was a no-show. In Port Elizabeth, where former Mayor Danny Jordaan lauded the War on Water Leaks project back in 2015, about 30% of its water supply is today lost to leaks. War on Water Leaks contractor Ofensi Makato says he had to ask so many questions of the Tshwane Council that he eventually gave up.
I said, guys, I think this is it. I've had too many headaches to last me a long time without your assistance. So the contract finished and I said, I can't continue until I know that the other matters are addressed.
The council says it's picking up the pieces of the ANC's failed municipal projects.
Certainly, in my opinion, we should never have awarded that contract if we understood what we were talking about.
As for the residents of Soshanguve, they are still waiting for their water leaks to be sorted out. The municipality promised to investigate their high water and sanitation accounts and give feedback.
That's all from us this week. Please do give us your feedback. Our Twitter handle is @checkpoint_ENCA and our email address checkpoint@enca.com. Thanks for watching. I'm Ngepile Mabuse.